Welcome to Vishal and Company, where Equity Guru's own Vishal Tura, Taku Ndachena, Colin Botrell, and Maddie Grace examine the week's financial events in real terms, bringing the esoteric blur of public market activity into sharp focus. So come in, sit down, put your feet up, and enjoy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Vishal and Company. This week, Vishal is going to give us some quick market updates, talk about how the Moderna vaccine is affecting markets, and the announcement that Tesla is joining the S&P 500 and what that means for the stock. We have a special guest today, Joseph Morton, and he's going to talk all things cryptocurrency, and I'm banking on Colin and TK to help me out with asking some questions as we go along. All right, Vishal, take it away.
All right, so yeah, I'm very excited about the crypto talk because that is the talk of the markets right now. But before we get into Bitcoin and Ethereum and Ripple and all that good stuff, let's take a look at the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the Russell. So as you guys can see here, this price action this day with this large wick, that was when the news came out of Pfizer's and I think it's BioNTech's vaccine. You can see we didn't close above previous record highs here, right? So that's the previous high of the S&P. We failed to close above that. Fast forward to, well, Monday of this week, and we did get a close into record highs here for the S&P 500. And this was due to the news of the Moderna vaccine, which had, I believe it was a 94.5% success rate. The reason why people are more bullish on it is because apparently it's much more easier to transport. So if you are going to, for logistics, it's going to be easier to send across the country and stuff. And I think they have 100 million doses ready. So now it's all about getting the approval and then they're good to go. But as you can see, after we got that breakout, a lot of our followers and especially a lot of my readers as well on Market Moment, they do know that when we get that breakout, we tend to see stock or any asset really pull back to retest before breaking out higher if it's going to continue the uptrend. But that was not the case. As you guys can see here, we actually closed below. And this is what we call a fake out pattern. And since that happened today and yesterday, we have really been doing nothing. I mean, this is just 4, 8, 12, 16, 24, 48 hours of price action. And it's just one of those boring sort of range days. And we're just waiting to see if markets are going to continue to sell off, which I believe they possibly can. You can read my Market Moment article on that. Or do we get back across and maintain, a trend of new highs, right? So vaccine news came out. Market liked it initially, but it failed to actually sustain. And just for your guys' interest too, so this was how Pfizer, not the Indian market. We want to see the New York Stock Exchange Pfizer. But that was how Pfizer reacted on the vaccine, right? Popped up, but it gave out all its gains, right? Gave up all its gains. And then we can even see, I believe Moderna did the exact same thing where, so now it's recovering now, but this was the day Moderna popped, broke into all-time record highs, but then it did sell off. And now here we are trying to break back across. So, a lot of talk because a lot of people thought that a vaccine meant markets would be popping because the markets haven't priced in that vaccine. But there might be something else, which we'll talk about in just a bit. Let's just quickly look at the NASDAQ here. It's still the only indice that did not make all-time record highs yet, whereas the Dow did as well, but very similar to the S&P, it gave up its gains or had a fake out. And the small cap is the strongest one of the bunch. So the Russell 2000 had that breakout and is the only one that actually did not close back below its support zone there. The one news piece that came out yesterday, it sort of doubts this whole idea of an economic recovery, but it's the fact that jobless claims have now risen to 742,000 and millions are losing aid. And why this is significant is because it is actually the first increase in 5 weeks for the jobless claims. And now it could be a sign that the resurgent viral outbreak is likely slowing the economy down and forcing more companies to cut jobs. So, we've seen a second wave of COVID, and now apparently there might even be a second wave of layoffs. I believe a few large banks. Is it Goldman Sachs that's going to be laying off a whole bunch of people as well in the next month here? I think it's about 20,000 employees. So the whole idea of an economic recovery, it's sort of in doubt now because of this. And I think now we just got to see next week's jobless claims to see if it keeps rising or if we start to see it decline once again. So, we're going to have to wait a few more weeks to get a bit of a trend. As I just mentioned, 5 weeks, the jobless data were actually decreasing. So it was showing signs of maybe a recovery. And then all of a sudden we got this spike here. So we have to keep our eyes on that. And of course, something that a lot of people are watching for and thought would have been stock market positive is the news that Tesla is finally joining the S&P, and it's set to join the index on December 21st. What does that mean for the stock? Well,
the end of capitalism.
Yeah. Well, basically, because it's joining the S&P 500 and a lot of ETFs, track the S&P 500, it does mean, folks, that these ETFs will have to purchase shares of Tesla. And that does mean, we're talking about millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not even billions, to buy the shares. And I do think it's very bullish for Tesla. As you can see, we haven't yet broken into all-time highs here above $500. We did make all-time highs, but we didn't get a close yesterday. We did sell off. So we are still battling in this zone here. But any thoughts, you guys, on Tesla and what that means for the market going forward? I think it's a bullish thing. And because of how large it's going to be, they're actually even considering splitting it into two, like shares A and B, to trade on the S&P 500.
I think it's one of those things where it's going to have a positive impact for Tesla.
Yep.
But it might have a negative impact on the index and how it performs over time because of how volatile Tesla is compared to the smallest section of the S&P 500. And it's kind of one of those things where, not to go too much into detail of how they structure them, the S&P 500 might now overweigh certain sectors and might not have that full diversification effect it's supposed to have. Because I think 10% of the index is 5 companies, I think. I might be wrong with the number, but it's close to that. It might be overweight now to the Amazons, Apples, Googles, and now Tesla going into it. So it brings into question the integrity of the S&P 500 as a market weighing index. You know what I mean?
Yep, I do. Yep. So it's going to be, I think it's a pretty big news. We're going to see how it all develops. I just showed you guys this chart too of NIO, which is the Chinese electric vehicle company. I think it's up like 1,500% year to date. So it's one of the biggest winners of this year. I mean, it was under like $2 in around May this year. Right now it's hit 52. Hit 54. Sorry. And we just found out that a lot of pension funds, so especially CalPERS, the Californian pension fund, has been buying a lot of NIO shares and could be buying Tesla as well. So that's something, you have to consider too, right? We're probably going to see more pension funds. I mean, whether they should be in Tesla or NIO is a whole different question. But that's also, another, I think, positive news there. And I think Tesla has been getting mutual funds and pension funds purchasing their shares way back in the day as well. But now you're seeing NIO here as well. Quickly on the commodity side here, gold. I wish I could tell you a lot more, but there's really nothing going on in gold. We're still just holding our support zone here, waiting to see if we break back above or do we break and close below this 1850 zone here, which would then see a move lower. Same thing with silver. But if you are a bit of a gold bull, you can see here on the 4-hour, there are people purchasing and defending that support zone. So not much to say there on gold. Oil.
Hey, Vishal.
Yep.
Have you taken a chance to look at copper as well?
Yep.
I've heard a lot of people talk about copper.
We're gonna mention that. So yeah, copper is at 327, and just to show you how crazy this is This is the weekly chart. Look at that recovery in copper, folks, from under $2, and now we are hitting 327. It is that base metal. It is known as Dr. Copper. So when the economy is doing well and booming, copper is supposed to be going higher. And obviously right now, this is probably all due to the Chinese, right? We're hearing a lot of news about China's like recovered, that their GDP is already positive, and they are going to be building more. So keep your eyes out on copper. There is going to be a big breakout here, it seems. I mean, we might even see $4 copper come next year, right? Which is pretty crazy. But yeah, it's one of those charts that a lot of people are still finding a bit odd because, of course, as I said, it's how you measure the world economy and the global economy, right? Dr. Copper. So this is all probably based on China, but I'm sure we'll talk about this a bit more next week. I think one of the biggest asset class to talk about is, of course, the cryptocurrency. And I just want to show you guys, I think last week we were talking about this breakout, right? Or, well, not really a breakout, but we were saying it's testing my resistance zone here at around the $16,000 zone. Well, take a look at the weekly candle for this week. Yeah, we hit the highs of, what is that? $18,830, right? $18,830. Pretty crazy, folks. All-time highs is the next resistance for Bitcoin. So we've had a crazy, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks of straight green for Bitcoin. In my opinion, I think it's due for a bit of a pullback before we continue higher. But before we talk about the fundamentals and what this move means, Ethereum is also breaking out. Looks like it has room to move to up to $600 here. And this is all American dollars. And Ripple is something that I find really interesting because the weekly chart is breaking out as well. And of course, you guys see this as that head and shoulder pattern, and it's breaking out. So a lot of these crypto charts here are looking, for a trader, they're looking really good. For a long-time investor, I'm not sure, but I know we have our in-house crypto expert, and he can probably tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I could probably take him here. All right. Well, first and foremost, I gotta say that the reason why Ethereum and Ripple, and if you look further down the chart, you'll see there are probably a few more coins that are in the green. Is that what happens to Bitcoin tends to be followed a trend by the rest of the altcoins, and it's not necessarily that their organizations or they're doing necessarily anything, but sentiment tends to follow what Bitcoin does. Now, specifically, the reason why I think Bitcoin is running the way it is primarily because of the pandemic and a lot of the quantitative easing that's come on. As a result, I mean, governments are printing a lot of money specifically to cover up the economic shortfall. And there are a lot of folks out there who are kind of shrugging their shoulders if they're not outright terrified of the prospect of the money in their wallets losing most of its value. So they're putting it away in a place where governments can't get at it.
So the whole idea that it's a move out of fiat currency.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of Bitcoin is a safe haven currency, coterminous with gold.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I entirely agree with.
Right.
We've seen circumstances in which it definitely hasn't gone that way, but I don't know. I go back and forth on whether or not that theory actually holds water. I mean, it's definitely looking like it does now. I mean, there's also the prospect of a lot of different like institutional investors and various other entire countries changing their mind on crypto, which can have a popularizing effect on cryptocurrency and cause the price to rise. But for the most part, I think it's just people looking to hide their money.
So in terms of like Ethereum, then the second one, if Bitcoin is that digital gold, does Ethereum have, value in terms of money, or would you also consider that a safe haven?
No, I think Ethereum's value is based on something entirely different.
Okay.
Ethereum, for the most part, is going to see rises and falls in its price based on what Bitcoin does, of course. But it has the potential to have its very own value system based on its utility.
So I know we talked previously about Ethereum 2.0. I mean, like me and you privately. Can you tell some of our listeners about Ethereum 2.0 and what to look forward to and what you think that's going to do to the Ethereum token?
Well, Ethereum 2.0, which is probably set to launch according to Mr. Buterin as of December 1st,
December 1st.
Will produce some fundamental changes in the way Ethereum operates. It's moving from, well, first and foremost, it's moving from a proof of work consensus mechanism, the means of closing the block, to a proof of stake consensus mechanism, which is actually going to reduce its overhead for any kind of operator considerably because they no longer have to use the ASIC rigs and the like to close the block.
And in terms of the token, we're not seeing a new token, right? It's still going to be Ethereum token, the same token. Oh, Joseph, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Just give me a second.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
I apologize for this.
But while we wait for Joseph, hey, Colin, man, have you been watching the crypto charts lately?
Yeah, they're I'm kind of in the same camp. They're looking a little bit
too mania-ish?
Extended, yeah, that's
okay.
a good way to put it for sure.
It's new. Yeah. It's the new investment craze. Psychedelics, cannabis, it's Bitcoins now.
So I mean, I like that you mentioned that because it's like things move in like cycles, right? So for me, it's interesting because like was Bitcoin relatively cheap, right, compared to things such as marijuana or stuff? I don't think so. So I'm seeing it more as this move into getting out of fiat, right? And it's something I've talked about last week with the US dollar and all these currency issues, and I think that's the reason why I'm bullish on gold and silver and why I really like the cryptos as well, right? So I think that's primarily my thing. We did talk about the Square. Remember how it was a Square that bought like $50 million worth of Bitcoin? Joseph, if you're there, man, can you give us your take on adoption of Bitcoin, and is that a catalyst?
Well, I think a lot of different firms are actually starting to get into Bitcoin. They're starting to realize its value. I mean, Square, like you mentioned, I mean, Jack Dorsey has long been a proponent of Bitcoin, and he was probably just waiting for the opportune time to get in.
Okay.
Like he seems to be always watching and always on board. My apologies there for a moment. I had some technical difficulty.
Worries. I know you had an article on EQUITY.GURU. You weren't really looking at this agreement in a positive light, right? You're saying that you probably wouldn't use their wallet and you wouldn't use their system.
That's not actually for Square. That's for PayPal.
Oh, that was PayPal. My bad. Yeah. So sorry. PayPal is also adopting. Yeah.
I'm actually not particularly fond of PayPal nor the way they operate. Mostly from past experiences. I could tell long stories, and we won't get into that today. But one of my principal problems with PayPal has and will probably continue to be the counterparty problem. The fact that it still takes 10 minutes to close a block, whereas PayPal, you can get the transaction done in a minute and a half. So there's a prospect of the person, who's already got your money, canceling the transaction and then walking away with your money and not giving you anything in return.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I haven't seen any kind of, suitable response for that.
Right.
Like they haven't seemed to fix that at all.
Okay. So previously on the show, we did talk about how transactions on Visa and MasterCard, right? They're just crazy, right? Per second. We're seeing now, when people are transferring Bitcoin currently because of its high demand, fees for the transfers are sometimes crazy. I had a friend that tried to transfer $10 worth of Bitcoin, and he had to pay a fee of $16, right, to send his Bitcoin. So, do you think and maybe Ethereum 2.0 will address that. But do you think we will see, faster times for this technology, or are MasterCard and Visa still going to be at the front for a long time?
Well, I still think MasterCard and Visa are going to be at the forefront. I mean, they have the technology, they have the infrastructure. And even with the adoption of Ethereum 2.0, I mean, no matter how well their sharding aspect works, it's probably still not going to catch up to the times that like an established company like Visa or MasterCard have.
Yeah.
So what does sharding mean?
Sharding is it's obviously a blockchain term. Here, let me see if I can come up with this. Okay, sharding is basically, sharding has a few different variations depending on what blockchain we're talking about. For Ethereum 2.0 specifically, their version of sharding is going to is basically going to be like splitting up the tasks of closing the block over a number of different nodes and getting them to work on it independently instead of producing all your computing power into one node, which bogs the process down. So we'll have like these 13 or 14 different nodes, which will all be performing this task, and they'll combine into one at the tail end, and it'll close much, much faster.
Gotcha. So sharding more refers to the mining process than it does the actual currency. Is that right? Or
yes, I guess, but I mean, like after a while, especially with Ethereum, we're not really going to be able to call it mining anymore because I suppose, by technically closing the block, you get the coins still, but staking itself is a completely different consensus mechanism than proof of work.
okay.
It involves different things.
Gotcha.
All right, Joseph. If I'm someone that wants to make money in Bitcoin right now, are there any altcoins that you're keeping tabs on, or maybe even some mining companies like Hive Blockchain, for example? What would be the way you would play this right now?
Specifically, I like Hive, Marathon, Riot, Marathon, Riot, and I'm starting to have a better look at DMG for mining companies.
Okay.
I like Hive because they are diverse. They are diversifying. They're actually picking up a lot of Ethereum in addition to Bitcoin.
Okay.
Presumably while they wait for Ethereum 2.0 to come around.
Yep.
So they can, get up into the forefront of staking. DMG, I like them because they are, they're diversifying. They have a lot of low cost electricity right now that they can actually sell to the United States in addition to using it for their own processes. I like Riot because they're big. And they have a lot of
oh wow,
like they have a lot of I don't know what's the word, a lot of land and a lot of land and activity. There's a lot of opportunity there.
Yep. So while Joseph's talking, I'm just showing our viewers here the charts of these companies, and as you can all see, a lot of them are basing or bottoming. So a lot of them are looking actually quite decent for this next cycle move higher. You touched on the energy cost. Like, is it profitable? Like, obviously, if these companies are making money, it is profitable. But we've been hearing things about electricity costs and such things. Have those costs lessened, or are people still going to like Iceland to use cheap thermal power to mine coins?
Well, Iceland's never a bad bet, but what we've been seeing is a rise of co-location services, which means that we'll have a company who, gets supplemented. What's the word I'm looking for here? Government reduced prices on electricity, and they will rent it out to about 4 or 5 different companies under one umbrella, and that's how the companies are reducing their overhead.
All right, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but this is my final question for you, Joseph. But by the end of the year, Bitcoin, does it break into all-time highs, or do we see a pullback? And then finally, what's your target on Ethereum for the end of the year after Ethereum 2.0 is released on December 1st?
Frankly, Bitcoin's been breaking my heart all this year. I was hoping it would go back down so I could potentially, pick some up, but it's just ridiculous right now. I'm thinking it's probably going to see all-time highs, and then we're probably going to see a pullback. I don't have numbers. I've been absolutely wrong all year long on my projections, and it's, like I said, it's been breaking my heart. Ethereum, I think, is high right now. I think it's hard to speculate on how well Ethereum's going to do, because we don't know how well Ethereum 2.0 is going to be taken, whether or not even sharding is going to work and solve the scalability problem. Because if sharding does and DeFi takes off, Ethereum will go through the roof.
Okay, so it's one that we're just gonna have to watch and see.
I've got a question for you, Joseph. Sorry to interrupt. What cryptos are using gold as a back?
Interesting question.
I can't even think of one right now. I can't remember whether or not Bitcoin Gold is still a thing. If it is, it's so far down the chart, so far down the line, that it's not even worth talking about. I mean, there are about 1 billion. Honestly, there's probably quite a few, but you got to question whether or not they're worth getting into.
Yeah. I know there's quite a few tokens and small projects I was following back in the day, but I don't know how they are getting along now. But you can see here Perth Mint Gold token, backed by actual gold blocks from Western Australia's Perth Mint. We have Digex Global, Singapore-based company, which have a value of 1 gram per gold per token, with vaults in Singapore and in Canada. We do have a gold coin. We do have a GLC, so it's a gold-backed currency, fractional, which means 1 coin is worth a fraction of 1 gram of gold. Tether Gold apparently is a thing too. The largest issuer of the US-backed, of course, the stablecoin, also has a gold-backed token called the XAUT. And then we also have Meld Gold here, which is an Australian tech startup. And doesn't really tell me. It looks like they plan to revolutionize the buying and selling of gold by integrating it into the current gold supply token. So, yeah, Galen, I'm interested in that too, because that's what I would see as like a good, I think, solid maybe investment going forward. Some of these gold coin plays, but I haven't actually seen the charts and if any of them have been taking off.
So, what is the idea behind the gold links? The coins, is it just to track gold using Bitcoin instead of US dollars? Is that the idea behind it?
It's just, yep. Sorry, go ahead, Joseph.
Oh no, that was me chiming in like that. I apologize. For me, it's basing the value on something, well, on a commodity that fiat currencies themselves were once based on, and gives it some validity and reality. Whereas now it's purely speculation and how many people are willing to buy into the currency.
Exactly. So it has a backing of a physical product or a physical commodity out there, right? So, if you do want to, I guess, cash your stuff in, you're that at least you own a partial of, some hard asset, right? A bit of hard asset. So
for the life of me, I don't know why you just wouldn't buy gold.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. if you want,
you wouldn't buy gold, or
no? That makes sense, Taku. Why not just go straight to the source?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of these commodity coins, like you see Dogecoin and apparently some gold-based coins, and I'm like, I don't know why you just wouldn't buy the commodity. I mean, you're already holding. Well, I mean, why would you need to have an intermediary between you and your asset?
Now that raises the question: is then what's the use of the cryptocurrency anyway? Then
I was just going to say that. Yeah. So is it even a safe asset or safe hold? Safety play.
It's mostly decentralization, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've never really seen the point of Tether. Actually, I kind of do. I see the utility of a stable coin like Tether or US or USDC, because it can provide some kind of intermediary between the scaling issue if you want to buy your coffee using crypto in the morning. But for something like gold or silver, no, I have no idea.
All right. Anyone else have any more questions for Joseph or any other thoughts here on crypto?
No, I mean, I wasn't even aware that there was a metals-backed cryptocurrency. So that's That's pretty interesting, and it does make it more attractive for the person who's kind of has that feeling like it's almost like without understanding the cryptocurrency thing, it's like, what exactly am I buying? It's almost exactly like fiat currency in that sense. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yep. You get both. You get the best of both worlds, gold and silver. I mean, gold and cryptos. Maybe there we go.
Is gold the only, like, is there a silver or platinum backed cryptos? Do you guys know? Or
There is a silverback crypto. There's probably a couple of them, but I only know of one. It's called Lodecoin.
oh, okay,
Load. Yeah.
Dogecoin, okay. And any thoughts on Dogecoin or Dogecoin, however you pronounce it?
Everybody always asks about Dogecoin. I think honestly, I'm starting to think that if crypto were to go away tomorrow almost entirely, the only survivors would probably be Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin.
Dogecoin only survivors, I think.
What is Dogecoin? It sounds
I'm so confused.
it sounds like the butt of a bad joke.
Yeah, Dogecoin initially started as a joke, but it was, I don't know, it's taken off. It's become more or less the penny of the cryptocurrency world. It's, I don't know, it's funny. You can use like a couple $100,000 to buy a pizza.
Is this real? Like, you're not joking?
I'm not
You should
making
see
it up.
some of the coins that are out there. I mean, there's like there's some ridiculous coins out there. I think there's
You
even a
can
marijuana
buy
coin.
things with, like, real tangible things.
You can buy things with any of the cryptocurrencies.
Any
You can find a
cryptos.
vendor for it.
It's actually been around.
But that's sorry, I apologize. That's if you have an intermediary exchange, right? You can't directly purchase anything with Bitcoin or with cryptocurrency, can you?
Well, it depends on whether or not the company has a POS box, which allows for crypto, because they are out there now. Like, it's entirely, there are some places there's some places in China right now that they have vending machines which will accept Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, I know the Asians are a bit more ahead in that. Like Japan and South Korea, I think are. I think South Korea is like where a lot of crypto trading occurs now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, definitely South Korea. South Korea is very big on the cryptos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it is pretty much South Korea is number one. China, despite the crackdown, the fact that the government hates it, is probably is up there too, which I find.
Yeah, because it's the only market that the average Joe Chinese person can actually trade without needing government permission. So I think that's like a huge positive for crypto in China, right?
Well, China has a weird relationship with cryptocurrency. I mean, it pretty much they when they do a crackdown, pretty much the only reason they ever crack down on Bitcoin is when they want to buy something.
That's what I've heard too. Yep, that's what I've heard too. I've heard a lot of the CCP members buy Bitcoin whenever the yuan is about to get devalued. So when the People's Bank of China is about to devalue the yuan, you'll see people run into crypto. CCP members run into Bitcoin, especially.
I'm going to throw a wild Hail Mary in there to say that at the end of it, I feel like we're going to go back into some sort of centralized system, be it gold backed or backed by a set of currencies, whatever it's going to be. I think it's going to not be too far from the norm for what we have now, but it's just going to be in a crypto form that has the infrastructure to actually do millions of transactions per day. But that's just my speculation on it.
The majority of the governments, actually, one of the major governments of the world are all looking into central bank decentralized currencies. I mean, China already has their digital yen or digital yuan, and they're basically out there. They've got companies like McDonald's on board, for its pilot flight. I mean, you can go into a McDonald's and buy your Big Mac with a digital currency. I mean, you can't do that anywhere else in the world right now, except for China and maybe Venezuela.
Yep, digital. I mean, in my opinion, a digital currency is like on its way. Centralized one. We know the ECB wants one. We know the Bank of Canada has it ready to go. It's just a matter of time of actually implementing it. It's gone through its trial phase already. So, I mean, I've sort of talked about the dangers of that and like why I think it's really a way to counter the whole negative interest rates, right? To get people to spend money. But that's why I find it interesting, because if we do head down towards that path of centralized currencies where everyone is forced to keep their money in the banks now and then get a charge of negative interest rates, so they see their money get depleted every month if they don't spend, in that type of system, do these, decentralized cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum, are they the digital gold now, right? And is this what this move is actually front running currently? Because maybe that digital currency is actually coming sooner than people think.
I personally don't see that coming without some variety of huge catalysts, like some variety of calamity or a war.
Possibly.
There are always going to be people who are hesitant to hand that much power over to their government system. And frankly, I'm one of them. Like, you're not taking that away from me. If I want fiat currency, I'm having my fiat currency.
Probably with most viewers right now, the big question is, should I invest or not? Have I missed the train or not? And what do you guys think? Is it too far to get in now? Is it Bitcoin seems like it, but Ethereum, Dogecoin, some of the gold-backed ones, is it too late, or what do you guys think?
I think it's like getting in the last part of the cannabis wave. All the money that's been made, that could be made, has been made. Basically, at this point, we're at the point of government validation and consolidation. So there will only be a very few currencies that do survive, and none of which will skyrocket in price, because once they get regulated, they're stuck. That's my opinion. Okay.
I disagree. We can set up. You have to think of this as, okay, December 1st is going to be a good size day for cryptocurrency, because then we'll find out if Ethereum 2.0 scales, and if it does, then we're going to see a split off into two different categories of cryptocurrency. We're going to see Generation 1 and Generation 2. Generation 1 are SHA coins mostly. They are Bitcoin. They're Litecoin. They are the non-staking, non-sharding coins. They're the ones that still use proof of work. They have their value, they have their utility, but for the most part, they're going to be very limited on what you can do. Now, the second generation coins are going to be Ethereum. They're going to be Polkadot. They're going to be Chainlink. They're going to be alternative coins in which you can use to build decentralized applications on top of like Ethereum and Cardano and other such utility coins. They're the ones that people are going to be using for decentralized finance. It really does open up an entirely new ecosystem, economic ecosystem in general, and that is where we want to look after December 1st.
So just a question. So it's basically more about what they will do rather than what they are.
Exactly. How can we use them to make money? Basically, we're basically buying money. Like, the price of gas is about, I think it's around $450 right now. You probably don't want to do that. There are other ways to get on Ethereum than just paying that, but you want to get on Ethereum at least right now until something better comes along to take over. And then you can build your business. You can do loans. You can open up potential for checking accounts, futures, other such derivatives, all on decentralized finance. There is a world of value and potential on these cryptocurrencies, as long as we resolve the sharding problem, the staking problem. Sorry, scaling problem. That's what we're looking for.
My last question goes back into like outside of institutions and central banks adopting it, companies themselves adopting cryptos. I've heard, I don't know how true it is, that the SEC has rejected a lot of initial coin offerings instead of IPOs by companies. Why is that? If they are more welcoming, if the central bank is more welcoming to the coin or getting the idea out there, why is the SEC, the watchdog for the markets, still against ICOs by companies?
ICOs are scams. Because ICOs are scams 100%. Like maybe in the early days when people went in and they thought, oh, look at this new hype machine I can use to build up my company in a artificial way because I'm only trading at a fraction of a penny. But for the most part, we have a lot of different companies that are going in and they're trying to raise $150 million. And so they invite non-accredited investors in and they offer out these coins for a fraction of a penny, but they want like 100, 150 bucks for them. And there's no guarantee that the company's going to use it to build their company, but instead buy Lamborghinis and real estate in Toronto, like we saw that one firm in Vancouver do.
All righty. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to wrap us all up?
I guess the only thing I would add is that I mean, with Bitcoin being as extended as it is, you could always look at companies like DASH, Neptune Dash. There's NetSense. There's GLXY, Galaxy. So all these companies kind of working with crypto are a good way to capture those gains too.
Yep, and as we were looking at, the charts are looking really nice, like they're about to be popping, you know, some nice basing.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. This has been very illuminating. Thank you, Joseph, for joining us today. I hate the concept of this Doge, I don't even know how to say it, coin. Like I genuinely...
Right after the show, aren't you?
What?
You're going to buy some right after the show, aren't you?
No, I'm going to look it up. I feel like I'm being pranked or something. It seems like such a joke to me. But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you next week for more market updates.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.